Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog, and today is another writing tips video, and like my last video we are focusing in on characters, specifically morally grey or morally ambiguous people. Writing morally grey or morally ambiguous characters is one of the big writing tropes currently. People are fed up with this perfect good and perfect bad character. They want the grey zone. They want realistic people who are both good and bad. We all have something I'm sure we'd like to not do, but we keep doing it. In this sense, morally grey or morally ambiguous characters are characters which are neither definitely good or definitely evil. They are characters who possibly don't show so much remorse, or characters who act like a dick and are fine with it. They do not regret how they are behaving, but that does not mean they are evil. The characters might be a dick and sarcastic and generally not nice, however, they will rescue you from a burning building. These people do exist. Before we get into that, don't forget if you guys like what you see to subscribe to my channel. Your continued support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Alright, here are my top 9 tips on writing morally grey or morally ambiguous characters. Number 1, stop caring. By this I mean stop caring so much about if the reader likes your character. You cannot write a morally ambiguous person and have everyone really like them all of the time. They are morally ambiguous, which means they're going to do things that most people will not find good. People will dislike them for these things, and you have to stop caring about that in order to write them accurately and wholesomely. If you start thinking like the reader that this character is a really bad person, you're not going to put in the good things that are going to confuse the reader and make them question if they really do dislike this character or not. Number 2, interesting flaws. You want their flaws to be as complex as this character's moral ambiguity. Things like characters suffering from anxiety or suffering from bipolar disorder or multiple personalities, where characters are fighting against themselves but internally, so the other characters can't see this. As a writer, you might not do it from their point of view. You might not always see every time this is happening to that character. It has to not be a personality trait. Number 3, create sympathy. This is how you turn a morally ambiguous grey character from being disliked for their flaws to being liked by the reader. For example, their flaw could sabotage them. So say a character has a flaw where they lash out when they are stressed. They could be perfectly lovely until they're in a stressful situation and they lash out, but then they regret it and they're sorry and they don't mean to. This can create sympathy for that character because people feel sad for them because they can't control it. It could be someone who gets so anxious in public that they always say the wrong thing, that they're always more sarky than they mean to be. Again, this can make the reader feel sorry for them because they're trying, but something keeps sabotaging it for them. Number 4, don't backstory the flaw. By this I mean, do not backstory out the flaw for why it's a problem. It's not their past that has made this flaw. It must be something that is integral to them, something they cannot control, something that was not made. It's just how they are. Therefore, it cannot be taken away from them. That is the character, it's not going to change. Number 5, don't justify. Although you do want to create sympathy for the character, you also don't want to justify everything that they do. At the same time, you don't want to condemn them. So a really good TV series to watch in terms of morally ambiguous characters is Arcane. Almost all of their characters are grey, especially Jinx, who originally begins as Powder. If you want to write a very morally ambiguous character where they do everything that is possible to do to be evil, and yet you feel sorry for them, watch Arcane and try to work out how they're doing it with Jinx. They know what they're doing. Number 6, things are not always as they seem. This links into flaws being more interesting. Sometimes you can really think you've understood the character's flaw, but then it flips on its head. You haven't got the full picture. This is another good way to change the character from being disliked to liked, even though everyone knows they are not necessarily good. Number 7, there's no right answer. By the end of this book, this character should still be ambiguous. They should still be grey. You are not trying to solve them. If anything, you might have one character that changes in order to help them and to interact with them, but they would have to change, not your ambiguous character. They are grey and they're going to stay grey. Number 8, don't over grey. By this I mean, don't have only grey or morally ambiguous characters in your book. You need a vast array of characters like you would have as people in real life. So you can have a couple of morally grey characters, but you also need a couple of more traditionally good and also more traditionally bad. That doesn't mean they have to be full good, full bad. A bad guy can still do something good and have a good reason for what they're doing. The good person can still beat someone up, but be on the good side because they're doing it to try to protect someone. Again, I will refer back to Arcane. Yes, I've watched it recently. Yes, I'm obsessed. But they do this so well because they have this array of characters. None of them are fully either end. There's something about them all. But definitely Jinx is the morally ambiguous and the grey, and everyone else is a slight variant upon this. Do not keep everyone in the middle. It will make it really hard for the reader to read the book. And finally, number 9, excuses. Do not backstory out the flaw. Do not correct the flaw which is making this character grey. However, you do need to create sympathy, and some ways to do that is to give a character a semi-excuse sometimes, not all the time. For example, we feel sorry for Jinx because she is made to kill things. She's been told to do these bad things. So that is her excuse. However, unlike some other people, she feels zero remorse. None. And she often enjoys the killing. That's what makes them more morally ambiguous, because she feels sorry for them because it's not their fault. If they were in a nicer place, if someone else had brought them up, maybe they wouldn't be so bad half the time. However, the excuse will not rectify and doesn't excuse everything, but they do need to have something that means if they were brought up in a better way, maybe might not have been as bad, but the flaw must always be there. So even if she had been brought up in a lovely family, she still would have thought interesting, because at the beginning when she is Powder, even though she's brought up nicely, she has loving friends, loving family, she sabotages herself and them every time. It's not made by her past. The flaw was there, but it is strengthened by what's happening to her. It's very difficult to write morally grey or morally ambiguous characters. They are very complex. So as I say, just remember always to be authentic with it and do not give in. Do not try and make this character perfectly likable. Do not excuse everything that they do. They are grey. They have to think morally ambiguously. So don't try to correct them. They are important and they are so interesting and so fun to read or watch about. Don't get rid of them. If you're going to write a grey or ambiguous character, you must commit. Don't chicken out of this. If you've decided to do it, do it. And that's it for my 9 tips for writing morally ambiguous or morally grey characters. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to see something that I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post my own bookish pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye!